The next thing we'd like to show is the reaction of diesel fuel and water. The reaction is true for all petroleum and biodiesel-based fuels. We have added water into each of these samples in a measured amount. Water is heavier than diesel fuel, so when it is added to the fuel it travels to the bottom of the test tube. You can also have dissolved water in the tube that you cannot see and free water that is on the bottom. Bacteria and fungi tend to grow on the interface between the water and fuel. When this sample of water and fuel is agitated, it will very quickly build up layers of what we refer to as gum. This will happen with any petroleum fuel: diesel, biodiesel, gasoline, home heating fuel, industrial fuel oils. All of them will build up layers of gum when there is any water present. As heat is applied to this gum, varnishes will be formed. This happens in a diesel engine as a result of the recirculation of fuel. If you have ever looked at injector parts or fuel system parts, they are always stained brown. The next stage is when you inject this material into the combustion chamber. This is what becomes the carbon deposits that plug injectors, build up on pistons and valves, clog or plug EGR valves, and variable geometry turbos. All of this has an effect on the operability, drivability, fuel economy, and emissions of an engine. In this sample, we will be adding Enerfuel additive. The reaction is beginning to take place that will totally disperse water into the fuel and make it part of the hydrocarbon chain. In this sample, we will add a naphtha-based additive. This additive tends to encapsulate water. The water drops out and is encapsulated at the bottom. This additive will also leave additional deposits in the fuel system. In this sample, we will add the mineral oil-based additive. Mineral oil is lighter than the fuel and floats on top of the fuel and does not affect the water on the bottom. With the Enerfuel product, it would take about 24 hours for this reaction to take place on its own. However, with agitation, it takes just a few seconds. In that brief period of time, we have totally dispersed the water throughout the fuel, and the way that this happens is a process called hydrogen polar bonding. If you remember back to simple chemistry, water is made up of atoms of hydrogen and oxygen. Hydrocarbon-based fuels such as gasoline and diesel fuel and biodiesel fuels are hydrocarbon chains consisting primarily of atoms of hydrogen and carbon. What the Enerfuel product does is cause a hydrogen polar bond to develop between the hydrogen atoms of the fuel and the hydrogen atoms of the water. It actually attaches the water molecule to the fuel, forming a completely burnable fuel that actually has extra atoms of oxygen, which improves the combustion process, makes it more efficient, more horsepower, more energy, and lower emissions. Very quickly you can see that the Enerfuel cleans up deposits and gums that we have created. The other two products have made the deposits worse. The naphtha product will clean some deposits and leave others in its place.